right, it's time for another episode of the PEBAheads, and we've got full crew today. We've got Michael and Jay with me. So let me remove this pin, and there's Jay. There's Michael. How's it going, guys?
Fantastic.
Well, we're
Still
about halfway through the playoffs now?
more than half.
A
Well, I
little bit
guess if you
more than
don't if you
half.
don't count the wild card, then yeah, about halfway.
Yeah, I mean, I know I don't want to talk about the wild card,
But we
Real short
will.
but
podcast.
we will.
Real short podcast.
Yeah, gotta get our credits.
CP.
Yeah, all important winter ball.
It's going to be a big off season.
Staff
Oh yeah. Ain't seen nothing yet. But yeah, let's I'll share my screen here and pull up the playoff tree. Is there any yes, upsets or anything that kind of caught you guys off guard?
upsets. I mean, I don't really think it's an upset, but like I was surprised that Mike was able to sweep London. I thought that'd be a close series. I thought it, maybe 3-2 or something in the end. So the quick sweep there was not really an upset, but kind of a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was expecting to at least lose one or two, but I won't complain. Pitching started off a lot better than I thought it would. I think that was kind of the moral of the story early on for me, at least, just that the pitching was overachieving. I knew that it was probably not going to last. Hitting was good enough. Not a lot of home runs. I think that's kind of been all of the playoffs in general. I feel that the home runs have just not been as prevalent as the regular season.
I think it was
And
kind of like league wide, even in the regular season this year. Like it seemed like the home runs were dropped off. I mean, obviously last year was kind of an outlier, but even from like the 3-4 years prior that I've been here, like it seems like home runs were down, but they've really dropped off in the postseason. That's why
yeah,
Florida's down 0-2 right now.
definitely say in the postseason, Joe Riley, pretty much who led the league with 49 home runs, is non-existent in the playoffs, and part of the big reason why we ended up dropping to West Virginia. But we can get to that. How about you, Sean? How's your series go?
I think I mean I wouldn't say that I was all that surprised, but at the same time I was more surprised with how it ended. On the surface it looks like a 3-2, hard fought series, but there was just the last game was a heartbreaker for us, and bring it up here quick because it was just you start diving into kind of what happened, and it was just one of those where we left a lot on the table. But the bottom line was, I think in the ninth inning, we had our closer Honda coming on, and he gave up a 2-run home run, and then somewhere between the ninth and the 15th inning, we had a runner get the go-ahead run get thrown out at the plate. It was just well, and as you can see, I mean, we had 9 hits, and then I think there was at least 7 guys left on base ultimately in the end. So it's way too many missed opportunities there. So it was.
Did they walk it off with a home run on the in the bubble,
What
like
did
top
they
of the
do?
15th, or was it?
I think it was something like
What did
that.
they manufacture? Let's see.
What's it about game log?
15 innings too. That's
Yeah,
It's brutal.
oh dang. Yeah, so that error too, that error.
an error.
You had an
Yeah,
error in that inning. It probably would looks like it would have ended the inning.
yep.
Yeah.
And that scored a run. Yeah. On the error. Which I don't know. It's one of those things where obviously it's smaller sample size for the playoffs, but team was pretty decent defensively. So just weird stuff
Yeah.
going on. That's for sure. I noticed as well, like Michael said, that you know, a lot more small ball, not many home runs being hit, which is I think kind of weird overall, because you just start digging in at different pitcher ratings and stuff. And I mean, historically, if you're a low movement pitcher, that should mean that you're giving up more home runs, and not really seeing that in most of the series so far. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It makes
Surprisingly, though, look at the Okinawa Ghost series for the
Yeah,
wild card. That one was wild. The Ghost, I think, hit 6, 7, 10, 11 home runs.
Yeah. That park though, the Okinawa Park is like very hitter friendly. That's why I was
Yeah.
like, I was rooting for Okinawa to win because I wanted to see Okinawa and Toyama go head to head, because I think there would have been a lot of runs scored in that. But yeah, let's go look
That's
at
where all the power went over to that series.
yeah.
12-1. They scored 12 runs, one game, 5. It's a lot of extra inning games this postseason too, like all the series.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
And a lot of them are close. Like most of the games have been close. There's a couple blowouts, but I'd say, at least from a competition standpoint, the games have been close, and it's makes it into a lot of longer series, at least on the our side of the bracket, it looks like.
yeah,
I am kind of surprised. I don't know if surprised is the right word, but with the league championship series, seeing both of them as a 2-0, with two
to a
teams
road
went out
league.
2-0 on the
Whoa,
road.
whoa, whoa! Let's not be skipping the divisional series now.
Oh, you want to talk about that?
Yeah,
But you wouldn't want to. No. Yeah, that one was. I mean, Jersey gave him a run. Jersey gave him a run, and gave West Virginia everything they could handle. And same with Amsterdam and Florida, the two dynasty empires that are unbeatable, Florida and West Virginia. Like a couple hits either way, like either of those teams already eliminated.
yeah. I was surprised with just how both the IL games, or the matchups went the full 7, and the SL it seemed so one sided. 4-0 for Toyama, 4-1 for Reno. I understand they're dominant teams, but I mean the same could be said about Florida. Same could be said about West Virginia the majority of the year, except for the end where they kind of waffled a bit. But um, yeah, there was just a couple hits here or there, 1 or 2 bad outings. Really turned the table. I was hoping to take Greg. We went to the limit, but ended up losing.
Was there a moment in there when you're like, you look back at it now and you look at like the play by play or whatever, and you're like, oh shit, like they shouldn't have put that pitcher in, or I wouldn't have made that move, or do you feel like kind of just got beat?
I think it just got beaten. I'm not sure. I'm looking back at like game 6, trying to really figure out what went wrong, why. Or no, not 6. Sorry, because 6 we won. Game 7. Nope, not game 7. Sorry, game 5. Apologies. Just what went wrong. I don't know if like Jermillo was gassed, how he looked so good the first game. I didn't go through the game long just yet. I'm not one of those guys that, and I should start doing it. I should start analyzing the game long and trying to really understand kind of what went wrong. But I don't know. One of the things I did change, at least for that second set of games, the 3, 4, and 5, is I did rotate some lesser performers out. Chan Su Chang, who's been struggling all year, got the bench. moved Gory in, or the horror show, at third base, who's just historically has done a lot better against West Virginia, and he actually ended up having a pretty good series. He was better defensively third base, so it allowed me to move some guys around to put slightly better defenders at the two corners. So I was happy with that overall, but still, even with like small modifications, it wasn't enough. And another thing where actually home runs were a little bit better in this series. I was hitting them, just not enough to the pace. Like I mentioned, I think earlier, Joe Riley just disappeared completely. Absolutely useless this series when he led the league, 49 home runs. Could not hit the side of a barn if he wanted to. Just absolutely horrendous. So I think for me, it was really just a couple performances, whether it was Riley disappearing or one bad or two bad outings from a reliever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to pick on you too much, but the reason why let's see, I'm not even. Am I sharing now? Is it
Yeah.
still up? Okay, I stopped here because this is your 13-2 game, but look how crazy this is. Greg not only scored 13 runs, but left 22 men on base. And then you got people on base. You just didn't score. Like you had 18 left on base. So I don't know. You were getting them on. You're just not being able to generate the runs. But yeah, it's
It looks like
interesting.
Greg just really went off in the ninth inning. It looked like too. Already had a
Yeah.
lead with 6
Yeah.
runs.
6 in the ninth. Yep.
Jenkins laid a big fat egg.
Crazy.
I think our series too I was kind of surprised. I mean, I don't know. I think Amsterdam's a good team though, but
I think they are, but I think like I don't know. When I was going back looking at it and looking at it against your team, the pitching performances are to me unbelievable when you look at what the ratings are versus the performance that they're getting. So it's we were kind of talking about it before we got on here about like pitchers with low movement are going to give up more home runs.
yeah,
It's not happening for some reason with these series, but
that series is interesting. I benched Maramata because he was hitting like 130 at one point, and like he kind of didn't really hit well for us after we picked him up this year too. But I think it was game 6. It was like 11th inning. He came in as like a pinch hitter earlier in the game, and they put him at first base and left Cole Cortez out there, and he hit the walk-off home run. So I was like, oh, okay, like maybe I can start relying on him again.
yeah.
Um, then I think the next game he went like about 0 for 2 and got his average back down to like 132 or something. So kind of been disappointed in him.
I know some people will say that we're talking about home runs too much, but bottom line is
Yeah.
you have to in real life baseball, it doesn't matter if we're talking about the 80s or today or whenever. You might have had one Ricky Henderson, you didn't have a team full of them. So you had to have all the good teams that had good speed always had 2 power hitters that could knock that speed in. Like it was never like just a team full of in our case, like
what does Matt Reed say? Like death by paper cuts or something, but death by 1,000 paper cuts or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's kind of typical here.
Right. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see the discussion in the off season about all that.
Yeah, if there are any
Well, I don't want to steal that thunder for today's podcast.
How about this round that we're in now? So the championship round, conference championships, like anybody see the 2 road teams being up 2-0 after 2 games?
No, that's very surprised there.
Now I figured I think all 4 teams are, they're very good, and I figured a split or
Yeah,
you're gonna have a 2-0 would be on the home side, but
yeah. It's interesting because I think these were the four best teams in the league this year, right? Four best records. So you're kind of
so
seeing,
yeah,
yeah, the final four who you thought they'd be, but I didn't think it'd be. I didn't think we'd be down 2-0 already.
yeah.
I think this is probably tonight will probably be the last sim for Florida.
To be fair to Dan had 100 wins, so but he was
Gotcha.
a division winner.
Wild card, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, four of the top five, we'll just say that four of the top five teams.
Yeah. The four
You're
best
that
the four best division winners.
Yeah.
you're that sure that it's just going to be over?
I'm not sure, but I
You
think
got that
Greg's got a
feeling?
team very well built for his park, and we don't have enough left-handed bats, I think, to win 2 games in Florida out of 3, or 2 games in West Virginia out of 3.
Don't you have a couple injuries as well?
Yeah, we got Jose Perez just went down, shortstop, and a left-handed bat, so he's out for the rest of the season. I obviously sent him down and gonna shuffle the lineup rather than kind of try to force somebody in there that maybe shouldn't be starting. I've got Roberts going back to second this sim, so we'll see how it goes.
I mean, at least in your case, I mean, you've got Trevino going presumably tonight.
Yep.
So, I mean, who's Greg got going?
I think Greg's got Hernandez, so like under a 1 ERA in the
So, I
playoffs.
mean, that should be a pretty good matchup there. The thing that I always want to pick Greg's brain on is just kind of the how he gets success out of these guys that are really two pitch pitchers
Yeah.
and then using them as starters because
But I wonder if it has something to do almost with like leaving them at a position of relief pitcher. Like I wonder if that biases the sim some way. I know it shouldn't, but
it's funny because it's like, so, I've talked about the changes they've made to ticket prices and, they focus stuff on like that. But then if they're really going to like, there is an advantage of leaving a pitcher coded as a relief pitcher.
yeah.
Like that should be like, that's where your game's broken. It's not the little stuff that they focus on.
Thought it was all the ultimate team or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. How can we get you to buy more packs of cards?
I think we got Hernandez, and then
And
like,
he's got,
even if we can win one of those two, like he's got Manny Gracia going in the third game, and he's just been lights out.
yeah, because your game 3 starter will be like Baroa. I guess not 3, but
Yeah, yeah, that's the fifth
the
game, the
third or
third game
fifth
of this
game.
yeah. Can't
Which he's another one of those guys that had a great year and then
That's it. He's not built for the moment. He's like
yeah.
Tua. It's not built for the moment.
Yeah,
I still
very
think it's
surprised by
funny.
his drop off. I mean,
I mean,
I know we could probably argue some of his numbers were inflated for the season, but I mean,
yeah,
it's still
like he was,
his ERA was low. It's
yeah. Like
he
obviously you
got
don't
to help the
expect him to
field.
go.
Sorry.
We got cut off there for our time, so we'll get Baroa back up on the screen. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I think like he overperformed all year. Like he's not a 2.29 ERA guy. Like he's not that guy. But I mean you can't be mad on his last performance. 2 runs, 2 earned over 6 2/3. Like that wasn't him that lost us that game. I mean, he took the L, but kind of crazy. 23-0 to 0-2 in the playoffs. So
Yeah, with an ERA that's double. It's been an interesting flip.
yeah. But he kind of dropped off at the end of the like he had some like even his last start of the regular season, you can see it there. 4 earned and 6 2/3. Like I think he overperformed most of the year. And like now it's like the worst time to regress back to the mean. But
yeah,
I guess we do. I could bench him. Lefty reliever.
Yeah, I mean,
Sure,
you
it
got
wouldn't
another
hurt him.
option. It's one of those things that's it's always hard to make that call, and then you start kind of second guessing yourself
Yeah,
at this point. But
yeah, but yeah, he'll be starting game 5, and got to roll with him.
Yeah, I think at this point you just kind of you can make the slight tweaks, but you more or less have to go with what you got and hope for the best. And
Yeah.
how about Reno though? I mean, I expected Ojeda to completely dominate. I know he hasn't exactly dominated, but he hasn't been terrible either. He's after kind of that rough first outing against Duluth to kind of start the playoffs. He's recovered quite nicely since then. Is more like his MVP form, or I should say his golden arm form.
And Reno's like
And
really been like convincing in their wins, like the most convincing. Like I think they've only got like maybe 1 or 2 one-run games or something in the playoffs so far. Like they're putting it together.
definitely agree. And without even one home run, I know we've been talking home runs, but have not even hit one so far in the series. It's all just been stringing some hits together, and winning out on the pitching duel. So it's yeah. I mean, we went from talking about Reno so long with Scott of that team that keeps bouncing up and down and what's wrong with them and what tweaks does he need to make to he's been pretty convincing so far throughout the playoffs.
yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens in this next sim, because if it's a split and then you're going to game 5, like with Ojeda there, um,
Yeah.
I would not be very confident on the Toyota end of coming back from a huge deficit like that. Now I know they came back from like a 20 game deficit early on in the regular season, but I don't know.
Maybe Reno will trade Ojeda right now.
Yeah, we can help out one of these other teams.
Open out the
Try
window.
to go down the playoff hunt.
Send him to Florida.
Yeah. I was gonna pull Reno's up though and see kind of just. I mean, we all know about Ojeda, but yeah, it's a complete. They've got a. It just kind of shows like the importance of having that one guy that you can rely on. But there is a complete team around him. But I don't know, when you have someone that's that caliber leading your rotation in these short series, it does make a difference.
Yeah,
Definitely agree.
like Ken Schmidt. I was looking at him. It looks like he's hitting like almost 500 in the playoffs so far. This shortstop.
Yeah,
From a 6 contact guy.
it's a guy that I was trying to steal away from him for
Yeah.
at least 3 or 4 seasons, I think.
Yeah, I think I might have called him out on like our like one of the past podcasts where it's like, oh, like young guys who are doing a job, they're not getting the attention. His defense though is kind of what I like about him. Schmidt.
Yeah, and then you got another young guy, this Griff Aspinwall. I know we've talked about him before.
Yeah.
He's had a good playoff run so far. I mean, it's just
Technically his rookie season too, I think.
yeah. I do believe so. I do find it funny when people start talking about their own I guess opinions about what rookies are, because it's like, to me it's like I don't it's like whatever the league says the rookie is, like.
He's had 11 at bats only, so I think he's good.
Yeah. I think what
Yeah.
Sean's trying to say is Miguel Baroa should indeed be a rookie.
Oh, and Baroa should obviously. There's no. I don't know. I think Baroa's borderline because of it. You used him as a reliever, and for people that don't know what we're talking about, Baroa, I think you used him as a reliever. He just had like enough days, not appearance. Like it was something to do with the amount of days he had.
Yeah, like him being, but
season or something.
yeah, I think like there were certain like the days after September aren't supposed to like count towards their service time if they're September call. But for whatever reason, it did.
Yeah.
So him with
Well,
eight,
that's
eight
that's the other aspect of it too. It's almost they counted like each day for the playoffs, and then even though you were eliminated, it counted days. So
yeah, so it's all right. Stick with them.
hey, all I know is when I go here and look at pitching leaders and qualified rookies, there's
There he
Miguel
is.
Barreau. So
When you go on our stats lab to vote for rookie of the year, though, all we see is Don Washington sitting there.
it's just kind of funny because it's like, why, if that's the criteria, then why is he showing up here? Like,
Yeah.
there's got to be some. It's odd to me because there's something's off. Like, so
It's definitely strange that he would come up in OOTP but not in Stats Lab.
right. But I've run into that too. Like when it comes down to like all-star voting, you'll like filter like if you're doing like batting leaders or whatever, and you go to catcher, like they'll show up here on the catching list, but then they won't have enough at bats to qualify for an all-star vote. It's like, why does it matter how many at bats they have if they have the numbers that are better than somebody else? Like, why are they not showing? Like, I've never understood that. Like,
I think that's just some
glitch in the matrix.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, tonight both these series. I mean, I don't know. I think with how things are going and how it just, people say it more and more, the NFL is scripted. There's times it feels like OOTP playoffs are, and I know we were talking about that beforehand, but
I think
I wouldn't be surprised if it's 2-2, at least on your side after this sim.
Well, it's a three
Three, so it'd be 3-2 one way. But I could see Florida taking 2, and then West Virginia taking 1.
I hope so. I don't know. I think it's a big ask though with that park. Maybe it is scripted though. Is Grant dating Taylor Swift?
Taylor might be a little too young for Grant. We got to think of something.
That's true. Yeah.
I did see a funny interview though this weekend with Andy Reid, and he said that he has known Taylor a lot longer than Travis has. So when people try to act like, basically that he's like an old man that doesn't know anything about that, it's like, I've known Taylor for a long time. And then they asked her like what his favorite song of hers was, and he's like, well, just because I know her doesn't mean that I listen to her music.
So do you guys think? Do you think Florida or Toyama can come back and win this series? Either one.
Can they? Yes.
Will they? No.
I don't know. Who's Toyama's got the bottom of their rotation? See, this is what, like, at least they have Costello.
I was gonna say Costello's like not a true bottom rotation guy. At least.
Like, do I think they get swept? I would be surprised if they get swept. What I would want to look at, and we can, is what Reno's record is against lefties. Because, I mean, Vargas isn't a bad pitcher. He's not like going to be lighting up anything. But
22 and 30 against lefties for Reno.
Okay, so I mean, on paper, just when you have that information, you would think that they have a good shot tonight of at least winning that first game, and then you've got Costello going up against, who do we got from Reno for game 2? Let's see, Martin Brown. So I mean, realistically, I could see them taking those 2 games, and then then they're going up against Ojeda for game 3 of tonight, so game 5. That one, I'm just looking at from that perspective. I would expect Reno to maybe lose 2 and take 1.
You think Toyama's going to have another home game?
I don't know. I think they're not going to get swept.
Okay. Oh, gotcha. Okay. So maybe they win one of the two. And
I
then
think they at least take
Ojeda can
that
close it.
first game, and then with Costello going, I would take Costello so that would even the series at 2-2, and then I think I'm going Ojeda for that game 5, so that would be 3-2. Then I mean, if that all happens, then it gets really interesting because then it's like, okay,
Yeah, 2 road games.
2 road games and not Ojeda in any of them. So unless you're gonna do like the Arizona Diamondback, like Randy
Oh,
Johnson,
Randy Johnson and Kurt Schilling. I remember
Kurt
that.
Schilling thing,
Yeah.
but OOTP doesn't really. There's times that I've tried doing that before with a starter with short rest, and it just doesn't.
Or I've
You have
I've
to be
told him like I even put the
careful.
setting on before where it's like, oh, like you can use starting pitcher in relief
Yeah,
in critical situations, and it just doesn't handle it
no.
well.
Well, and you have to make sure you go into like your strategy settings too, and like if you have like pitchers benched by a certain percentage, you got to make sure you take that off so that
Yeah.
it'll allow you to start the pitcher and make sure your rotation
Yeah,
is
go to the
like
pin.
strict order versus like strict versus highest rested.
Yeah, I
And
screwed up on the last sim. I guess the end of the season all I did was like always start highest rested because I didn't want anybody to get injured. Um, and then I forgot to turn it off, so that's why Burrow got the start, but he was fine anyways. So
so let's see, game 6 potentially you'd have Lamberti versus who do we got from? I mean, really, I think really to me that's where it really comes down to. You got Hernandez. That's that's your coin flip game
yeah,
because you don't want. I would think you would not, if you're Reno, you're not wanting to go to game 7 against a lefty.
yeah,
But oh,
Well, I mean, yeah, you go back to game 2 where they already faced off and Hernandez got pulled after the first inning or barely into the second inning. Lombardi gave up 5 runs as well, but he at least lasted 6. So then it was up to the bullpen,
yeah,
right.
where the bullpen was doing a lot more heavy lifting on Toyoma's side that game. So,
Kind of drain the pen too.
yeah,
that's always something interesting to look at too. Is just like going into the next group of games, how does a team's bullpen look? I mean, looks like
they get the rest day.
they're going to get the
So,
rest day, so they'll be fine. Toyoma will be fine. Reno's probably similar.
Yeah, yeah, they're
Yeah,
fine.
their best reliever is exhausted, but that extra day should. I don't know. I don't know if it depends on what his settings are for those guys. He might be without Sawami for this next game. Just depends on how it's all set up. I don't know. Yeah,
Should be interesting.
should be interesting. That one, I mean, I know people openly root against UJ, but I'm not expecting you
Let's
to.
see yeah, everybody openly roots against Florida, but they also openly root against West Virginia. So I feel like we're just kind of this is like evil
And they
empire.
both lose.
Yeah.
dismantle the teams.
Yeah, it's not
Great.
fair.
Yeah, you know.
Uh,
I
should
don't
be
know.
interesting though. I mean, I agree with you guys. I think I don't think that the series are over, even though there's 2 teams ahead. Um, I still, Jay, I have faith that you'll
We'll see.
get to the probably game 6 at least. Same with even the wind dancers. To as you guys were saying, like I can see them taking game 3 and 4. Once you get to game 5, and you're starting to go back through that rotation. I mean, Owen Bars is no joke, but I can see Toyoma taking the next 2 as well. So I'm fully expecting the series to take longer than one more sim.
Yeah.
It's huge though that Reno took those 2 games because like heading into that series, if Toyoma had taken the first two, it would not be
It's
a
not so bad. Yeah.
same type of outlook here. Like,
Yeah. Completely agree.
So in a theoretical Toyoma West Virginia championship, like who do you think wins that? Toyoma took down us last year.
I think that's a
I'd say
fair
Or
question.
sorry, Reno, West Virginia. Sorry. Like if things hold, if the road teams can get it done.
I'm
I
going
don't
with
know.
Reno. I think Zephyrs might have the leg up. I don't think Greg's team has been performing this year. Obviously, I mean they didn't even break 100 wins. I know some of it was who's simming, who's not simming, whether he sent out a sim or whatever it is. But I mean the rotation is still solid in West Virginia, but I feel like it's finally Reno's time. It's just everything seems to be clicking. Whatever Scott has done to get the team to work, he's gotten obviously some good play from some rookies. I I still think it's Reno's time. I don't know. For me, I could see Reno going all the way. That's who I have right now,
Yeah.
winning it all this year. I'm rooting for Scott. So
I feel like Reno's like everybody's like your favorite GM's favorite team is Reno too.
yeah, yeah, I could see them winning, and I'd have zero problem with that.
Yeah.
I'll play the other side, and I think it's gonna matter how long this next series goes and where Ojeda, like how many starts you're getting Ojeda in a potential World Series matchup.
Yeah.
It's one of those where if his two starts are later in the series, it might be too late and he doesn't get two starts. If this next one is finished early and say West Virginia, Florida goes longer, and he can get him and have him start again and be like one of the first two games, then I think
He's got a shot.
that gives him a shot. If he's starting like game 3 potentially or game 4, just because of rest type scenario, probably would be game 3. But that's where it gets I think the pendulum shifts way over onto the West Virginia side.
Yeah.
But he's got to get there first. I would say the same
Yeah.
type of thing with Toyama. It's all
It's
going
really
to
just
matter
like
how.
yeah, like hoping that your team can finish the series earlier than the other side.
Yeah,
It gives you the extra day of rest and
gives you that extra day of rest, that flexibility to set your rotation the way you want it versus going by
right.
available. But I mean, the thing that would scare me with Reno is just that they had a pretty good offense, but they gave up a lot of runs. They were 7th in the SL in runs against. And then when you look at West Virginia, they scored about the same amount of runs. They were, let's see, 696, so 5 less runs than Reno, but they were second in the IL in runs against with 544. So almost 100 runs less given up. So
Right.
overall, it looks like on the surface, pitching staff might be better, but yeah, it really comes down to the when does Ojeda go for me.
Yeah. That makes sense.
All right, and then the last topic that we wanted to touch on today was kind of some look ahead at the off season and some things that recommended things that we think you can start working on now to kind of get prepared for the next off season. And just we've all had those moments where we're newer in the league and then you're like, oh, I didn't even know you could think, or you're not thinking of those things. So start off with you, Jay. What are some things that you try to do
Um,
now?
I think first thing I always do as soon as my team's eliminated, like that's when I focus on getting the minor leagues in order. Kind of see, what quadruple A guys that I call them, the guys that are ML call ups or whatever, like vets. Who am I going to bring back there if I can bring anybody back? Like just kind of get those things in line. Second thing is just kind of start to negotiate with your arbitration players. I'd rather have less uncertainty heading into salary arbitration. So I'll, just kind of go back and forth with those guys, try to get them locked up on their 1 year contract so I at least can be a little bit more predictable of what my budget's going to look like. I think those are the big ones. And then the staff, right? Kind of figure out where you're at with your staff. Are you going to use your CP to create another person, or are you going to extend who you've got? Are you going to have to replace anybody? Those are kind of the big three. And I also would probably be getting the trade block out there for winter meetings, and it's never too early to start on that stuff either. So I guess four kind of action items that I kind of try to prioritize.
What about you, Michael? What are you working on now?
Right now, probably myself, not much because I've already done it all. I spent way too much time in OOTP, but a lot of the similar things. You go to one of your filters. I forget whether it's in. You can go into the roster or upcoming free agents, I should say, and under organization, you can see who's coming up. Start as Jay mentioned, anyone you're in your minor league that needs to be extended another minor league contract, or if you're actually interested in them. I've already kind of dealt similar stuff, dealt with personnel. I think probably the other big thing that Jay probably didn't touch on was just really getting organized for what you're doing for the winter meetings. Are you going to send anyone to winter ball? Have you identified any of your personnel that you're going to put some dice rolls in to try to improve? And I think that's probably the big one. I think every single person, every single GM should be using that to the maximum every single offseason, improving some sort of coach somewhere, whether it's a scout, a trainer, or your manager's stats, something. Or if you're so far ahead, like West Virginia and some of the other big teams that have been doing it for a long time, then you move on to your minor league teams and guys that you can see eventually coming up and taking over. But really, you should be dumping some sort of improvement into your management staff every single year. And so identify which is your biggest need or where you want to improve the most, and definitely designate that. I have 2 players already tabbed for winter ball that I already have notated for myself, kind of what I'm doing, how many points, all of that. The minor league stuff, other than giving the minor league contracts, my minor leagues are a mess in the offseason. But I think the other big thing that I would do that kind of differentiates, or at least Jay didn't touch on, I'm sure he probably does this too, is I re-go through all of my actual player search shortlists that I have, and I'll start cleaning those up and removing guys that may have gotten worse over the year, or we're kind of starting to fall off a bit, and clean those guys out. And then I'll add any new players in as well. That'll be kind of my targets, whether it's in the off season or in the next season. I try to get organized there. So I have lists watching all the feeder leagues, who I should be paying attention to, what their windows are of when they're going to be finally free agents. I go through everybody's systems. I start marking down super young players, people that I think are interesting that I should keep tabs on in case I want to target them in future trades. Anyone that's coming up for free agency, anyone that I should try to be targeting, and try to identify my own needs. You should kind of already have an idea of who you're going to bring back, who you're not going to bring back. A couple guys I already know, a couple relievers I'm probably not going to re-sign or I'm going to let go, and so forth. So it's really just getting organized, because the off season is quick. I mean, it's slow, it's long, but at the same time, the sims do come relatively quickly. We switched to a three sim a week schedule, so it's a little bit quicker. And there's just lots to do and lots you should be doing if you're hoping to improve, and you don't want to just sit there and wait till the next season begins and all of a sudden you've done nothing.
Well, the one thing I would add too is like if you go into the free agent screen, you can check the potential upcoming free agents of all the teams in the league. So when you are planning on do I resign this guy or not, you can see potential free agents. Obviously, a lot of those guys might get re-signed with their own teams, but it's nice to kind of see what's available potentially, and then kind of gauge. Okay, well, maybe I don't want to. You might have gone in thinking you don't want to re-sign a guy, but then you go and look at what's potentially available, and there's no players available at that position, so it might cause you to rethink your strategy, or maybe you have to go acquire that position via trade or Rule 5 or something down the road. But that's another one I like to look at.
I know we talked about it, but I know that Dylan tends to bring it up and try to emphasize it. Just keep in mind, as soon as the season's over, any managers you don't have assigned to extensions that are done this year, they're immediately dropped. So I think Jay said it, he would check his personnel. But yeah, you don't want to let it lag until the playoffs are over, because then they're gone.
Yep.
Well, I don't want to get too much into winter ball strategy, but one thing I will say is that there's a very complete log of what every team has done in winter ball that's posted on the forums for years going back. So if you're unsure of what to do, or what how to spend that money, my recommendation,
Go look what Greg does.
yeah, I mean, look at what the successful teams do. Like, go and look and see what are they spending their money on, like, or their CP on. But
yeah, I think the last thing we wanted to call it as well, like Hall of Fame voting, like just kind of the league stuff too, right? The PSA for obviously like the extensions, but review the Hall of Fame ballot. I think we'll probably end up doing an episode on just that, but you should be voting for 10 people. On PSA right now, vote for 10 people. Don't leave any open spots on your ballot.
yeah, I mean, my thing
Stop
is
being stingy.
My thing is like, look, it's embarrassing that 0 players were elected. Like recently, it wasn't last year we had no one elected, or was it the year before? There was like a year recently where no one got elected.
I think it was a season or two ago.
There's absolutely no reason for that. Like, there are multiple guys that should deserve being in there, and we can get into that'll be a fun podcast to get into the debating of all of it. But it's just like, I mean, I don't know. There's certain players on there. It's just like, okay, like, I guess we as a league kind of need to decide, like, what are we shooting for with the Hall of Fame? Is it like what we traditionally would see out of a Hall of Fame, or are we just talking about like former MVPs and like Golden Arm Award winners? Like, is that what we're talking? Like,
yeah, I think I've said it before, but like my approach with it has always been like, can you write the history of the PEBA without this person, right? Like any Golden Arm winner, like necessarily you can't. Like any MVP, necessarily you can't. So like those are like easy calls for me. But I think there are so many like that have won it now that we still don't have in there. That, like you kind of got to narrow it down. And I know Sean, we were talking about it before, but it's like kind of keep, if a guy was dominant at the shortstop position for his career, and like now there's better shortstops, like you can't disqualify the original guy who was there because he doesn't hold up to the new numbers that you're looking for. Like he's not Gordon in center field or whatever.
and I think let's see, was it Chuck that said it from New Orleans? But he had talked about how the original MLB Hall of Fame, how they started the Hall of Fame, and how they, I think there's like 10 people that first got elected, and then the next year it was like 5 or 7, and like they purposely put in the legends first. And I think that might be part of like what's kind of getting hung up on the voting, is that rather than those top players being put all in at once, you're having to vote them in, and it's kind of causing maybe like the ripple effect. I think Kevin had mentioned that he thought over time it would kind of correct itself, which it could. The scary part is you hope that these guys don't fall off the ballot by then.
Right.
So
We just
thankfully,
need to have
we only added 4 players. Was that? Did I read
3
it?
last year. 2 the year before that. It was 2036 where we added nobody.
I mean, to the pool itself.
Oh yeah, we added only 4 people to the pool.
Okay, so that should, I mean, that should help. We eliminated 3 by, and I shouldn't say eliminated. We elected 3 to the Hall of Fame and then added 4. And I know I always enjoy when Mike shares that PDF, and you can kind of read about stuff that you might not have been in the league for, so you can see where these players stack up. And
Yep. Yeah.
the other important thing with that is to go in to Stats Lab and look at the historical numbers for players. Like, I know people have said in the past, they insist that, well, they go and do that, and they're only voting for 3 players this time. I don't know. I don't believe it.
Yeah. It's like in real life, the people who will just never vote for anybody because Babe Ruth was not unanimous.
Yeah.
Like their one job is just like to not vote for anybody because nobody can ever be unanimous. So like I just I don't know. I don't get it. Oh, other thing too, vote for the awards. I think that deadline's coming up as well. So anybody who's still watching.
Well, with that, I think we can close out for this week. But thanks guys for your time, and we'll catch up. We'll try to do one next week while the champion, or the,
So yeah.
what do we call it? The Rodriguez
We're
Cup.
waiting to see if West Virginia or Reno brings home the title.
Yeah.
All right. See you guys
All
later.
right. We'll see you guys later.
All right.
Bye.
See you guys.